You're listening to The Film File right here on No Barriers Radio, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. Good morning, Vietnam. I was about to say, Andy. I don't know where that came from. I'm just living somebody else's life. I've realised this. Hello and welcome. I'm Lee Ford.
And I'm Andy Meakin.
That's the way to start a show.
So last week's question of the week. Yes, we're on to question of the week time. And last week, with Now You See Me, Now You Don't scoring pretty well at the box office, we were wondering what other films never got a sequel or have long overdue sequels that you think are just perfectly ripe to come back for another screen outing.
Okay, how do we do?
So over on Facebook, Owen Cooper said, do a Noah Baumbach type film for Napoleon Dynamite sequel to see where they're all at. You can't really emulate that same weirdness again because everyone's just too old for it. But I think doing it in that style could be good. Apparently, he says as well, Leon the Professional was going to get one about Matilda that fell through.
Right.
And as time has gone on, I'm not that big a fan of the idea of a third Kill Bill because, well, Bill's already dead. Al Bestall said Dread. Dave Vango said he heard that there might be a Zombieland 3 coming. I'd like that.
Okay.
Long Whispers of a Demolition Man 2, the first of being one of his absolute fave films. He also agrees that another Dread is very needed. The first failed because of poor marketing and delays due to last-minute conversion to 3D, but it's a masterpiece of the genre, chef's kiss. And something outside the box. How about an Edward Scissorhands now, 30 years later, Winona returns? I can see it. She just did a Beetlejuice sequel, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's my list, but you could probably think of a dozen more. Lee Leary said, for me, I'd love to see another The Rock movie, but alas, Connery isn't here. Also more World War Z, and a little left field. He'd like to see a continuation of the Netflix actioner Momentum with Olga Kurilenko under the radar, but I admit abruptly ended, so I'd like to see where it went. Over on Threads, Quality Chimp said, I watched Alita Battle Angel 3D again on Monday. It's sad that there would never be a conclusion. And then I heard on Tuesday that Cameron and Rodriguez are still planning to make it a trilogy. Result, another vote for Dread from Quality Chimp as well. Dread needs another film, obviously. And Gareth Evans has moved on, but a closing film to The Raid would have been nice. I have to imagine that Rama had a happy ending with his wife and baby.
I agree with all of those. I'm going to throw in Master and Commander. Here's one for both of us because we both enjoyed it so much. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves.
Yes.
Galaxy Quest.
Yes. From my list, I've also got LA Confidential. We know that we got Gremlins 3 and I Am Legend 2 in the pipeline. Edgar Wright's teased that he's got a script idea for Baby Driver 2, and I am so there for that.
I've got a question for us for this week. What is your all-time favourite movie poster? A classic that you can just go, that's almost an art form. So, for instance, anything by Drew Struzan, the Alien one, which was so simple, but so effective. I've talked about before having the Hildebrand Brothers Star Wars poster on my wall as a kid. What is your favourite, or favourites, in fact, movie posters? In the age of this sort of like Photoshop version, are we going to go more classic than recent?
I loved the character set of posters and also like the quote poster for Train Spotting, the simplicity of design.
Classic.
But each of those character ones from that image you knew before going into the film, the personalities.
Awesome. You know what to do. You do this.
Answer the question.
Head on over to social media channels, search for Film File UK, follow us on there. We'll post out the question during the week, so you'll have a few days to be able to answer it, to get a mention on the show. Or you can email us your answer, podcast@filmfile.uk. Or if you're on Spotify, look under the show. There's a comments box. Pop your answer in there. Looking forward to hearing which posters. Well, basically, I mean, I could show Lee, but you guys out there can't see. But my phone, I always have posters as my lock screens.
Yes, you do.
I have it cycling through, and I've got loads of Drew Struzan ones on there, and I love to pick out posters to swap around on there. So tell me what I should have on my lock screen on my phone, basically.
Brilliant. Look forward to your responses, and I look forward to telling you about what's on the rest of the show. Okay, so what do we got for you? We have a deep dive into the Alan Moore adaptation, don't look for his name, it's not on it, of V for Vendetta. And we have reviews, Andy, of...
Opened at cinemas this week. Of course, I was going to review it. Wicked for good.
We'll soon find out if it is.
I also then checked out The Family Plan 2, because if you remember when the first one came out, I said it was actually generic, but okay. Hear what I think of the second one later in the show.
You're a braver man than I. But before that, we've got some news, we have some views, and of course, we're going to kick off with this week's box office. Andy, I'm assuming that Wicked for Good is dominating everything. And The Running Man has now stumbled.
Wicked for Good went straight to the top of the box office in the US with 150 million for the opening weekend. In second place, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, with 9.1 million for its second weekend. Predator Badlands in third with 6.3 million. The Running Man, 5.8 million for fourth place. And Rental Family in fifth place for 3.3 million. Here in the UK, Wicked for Good taking the top spot, 18.8 million in the UK box office. Now You See Me, Now You Don't in second place with 1.11 million. Running Man in third place, 654,000. Nuremberg in fourth, 491,000. And Predator Badlands, 375,000 to round out the top five. Wicked for Good for its worldwide opening weekend has taken already 226 million on a budget estimated around 150 million. So it's a no-brainer that Wicked for Good was going to pull in some good numbers worldwide on its opening weekend. The excitement and the hype for this from all the people who loved the first part, it's a guaranteed audience. With things like this, it is a worry that it is going to be top-end heavy and it's not going to have legs. But as we saw with the first Wicked film, it got a lot of repeat viewings. Yeah. People were going back. Like you do with a good musical, you keep returning to it. I finished watching it and I want to go back and watch it. I'm looking forward to the home release. I can't spend that much time in a cinema watching films because I spend the time in the cinema working. So it's very rare that I will watch something twice on the big screen, but this is one that I wanted to go back to. Now You See Me still holding in there, but much lower numbers. Running Man pretty much coming to the end of its run already, which is a darn shame.
Yeah, you liked it a lot.
Lots of criticism out there from people saying that it doesn't feel like an Edgar Wright film, but I think that it shouldn't feel like an Edgar Wright film because this is a story that Edgar Wright loved in book format, and so he's not really put his mark on it. He's not made it an Edgar Wright film. He's made it a Stephen King film.
Yeah, I've not got a chance to see it yet. I stumbled on trying to get to see it this week, but I will do because I'm intrigued by it. But I have read a lot more negative reviews than I've read positive reviews. Not that that should put me off. I've talked about it before. We should all make our own mind up, even when you've heard us say something. Yeah. So it's clear that the magic that is Wicked, and I've talked about this all week on the radio and the build up to it on the Beeb, that it's a mum and daughter film, not primarily, but it's that sharing with women and girls sharing the film together primarily. Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic audience that, we've not seen since, the last Wicked and before that Barbie.
It doesn't mean that only mums and daughters can watch it because there has been a wide array of demographic coming into our cinema this weekend, but it has been primarily female audience. It's been groups, 4, 5 and 6 people all booking together to go and share that. As you do with any theatre experience, if you go to the theatre to watch a show, you don't go on your own, do you? You always go with other people.
Unless you meet.
And that's what films like Wicked are all about. It's about bringing that theatre experience to the cinema experience. Moving over to news that has landed this week. One thing got me very excited. And it's got a few of my buddies at work excited because we are huge fans of this franchise. And this almost ties into the question of the week of long overdue sequels. On TV, we've always wanted more Stargate.
Well, I did see this, Andy, and I instantly thought of you.
The Stargate franchise started with the film and then spun off to make a TV series, which kind of was joined to the film, but retold it with different characters and became something of its own thing with SG-1. It then had a spin-off of Stargate Atlantis and then Stargate Universe, which was unfairly cancelled too early into its run. And then all that we've had since then is webisodes that have been okay at best. Well, Amazon MGM have ordered a brand new series in the franchise with Martin Gero set as creator and showrunner. Gero worked as writer and producer on all 3 previous Stargate TV shows. This will be the first TV series since Stargate Universe concluded in 2011. It's been 14 years. In his statement, he said, 20 years ago, my first real job in television was a story editor on Stargate Atlantis. I spent 5 years at the franchise working across all 3 series. Stargate taught me everything about making television. It's written into my DNA. I'm beyond thrilled that Amazon MGM has entrusted me with guiding this incredible franchise into its next phase. For those who've kept the gate active through conventions, rewatchers, and unwavering faith, this one's for you. And for those that are new to our world, I promise you're in for something extraordinary. Now, they've confirmed that it's not a reboot.
Okay.
It's a bold new chapter, so it is going to draw on the previous legacy, the same way that modern Star Trek has drawn on the legacy of the Star Trek, but never stepped on the toes of, and it's always expanded the lore. They've got to get this right because they will need to bring in more of an audience who've not seen it. So it needs to have that accessibility and not be swamped in lore, but then they can slowly drip feed the lore, give us answers to the outcomes of the characters that the original fans loved, but without it feeling like anyone who hasn't watched the originals doesn't know what's going on. In recent years, we saw the Quantum Leap TV series, which sadly got cancelled after 2 seasons, but I think that did the legacy sequel perfectly. New audiences could just jump in and everything that you needed to know was explained within the first couple of episodes, and it was a whole different mix of characters, while still occasionally referencing earlier Quantum Leap. If they can get this right, Stargate's back, baby.
So, as you said, Wicked is doing magical numbers, pun intended. There has been rumours already that they'll go for a Wicked 3. Now, I know it's just a rumour, but what do you think, having seen the film? Is it milking it, or do you think there's a reason? There is a reason within the story to have a third film?
Well, as a fan of the book by Gregory Maguire and the other tie-in books and sequels, there are potential stories there. However, none of them have been translated to musical form yet. So if they do it, because if they make a spin-off to Wicked, people would expect it to be a musical now, even though the books weren't musical. The books weren't even for kids. If you are still thinking of buying Wicked for your child for Christmas in novel format, please don't. Please don't. There's an animal orgy. There's an animal orgy in graphic detail.
Never saw that.
The Wicked book series were adult takes on the Oz series. And so the second book was Son of a Witch, which picks up from Wicked. But there's also A Lion Among Men, Out of Oz, and Elfie, A Wicked Childhood. There's multiple stories out there that they could draw on. Or they could just take any of the original Oz novels and do them in musical format. We've already had The Wizard of Oz, obviously, all those decades ago. We don't need a Wizard of Oz. We've got that, and we've got Wicked to show the other side of it. But there's so many other stories. Why not branch out? If anything, Wicked being a success at the cinema has reinvigorated the idea of Oz as a fantasy world setting. So yes, expand it out, but don't labour it. Make each one of them worthy. Don't just give us the same thing again.
Right.
In other fantasy world settings,
go on.
We know that there's another Jumanji film on its way.
Yes, we talked about it when we deep dived Jumanji.
Core cast of Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Karen Gillan have all confirmed that they're coming back. Well, several other returning faces have also been confirmed. Nick Jonas is back as pilot Jefferson Seaplane McDonough. Rhys Darby is back as the in-game character Nigel Billingsley. I always love seeing Rhys Darby pop up. Danny DeVito is going to return as Spencer's grandfather, Eddie Gilpin. Marion Hinkle as Spencer's mother. Lamorne Morris as a heater repairman. And Bebe Neuwirth as Nora Shepherd. Dana Hildebrand from Game of Thrones and Jack Dukes from Criminal Minds have also joined the production as new cast members. We don't know who they're going to be playing. And shooting is well and truly underway with a December next year release date planned. The first Jumanji released just before, Jumanji The Next Level released just before Christmas when that came out in 2017, and it did stellar business. This could follow suit. People love the Jumanji franchise.
All over the internet over the last week, you'll have seen Andy's favourite director of all time, Zack Snyder, posting some behind-the-scenes pictures from his Superman films and from his Justice League films, almost to feel relevant again, especially in the wake of his animated series over at Netflix, Twilight of the Gods, has reportedly been cancelled after the cliffhanger season 1 ending.
His posting out of all these images from behind the scenes of his DC stuff. I was talking with Scott at work, and Scott's a big DC fan, and he doesn't mind the Snyder films. He would, he was never like a campaigner for release there. but he's a big DC fan and he would have liked to have seen them brought to a conclusion. But even he's been saying, what's he up to with these images? What do you think this is all about? And I just said, well, clearly he's, everyone always says that he's such a nice guy and he has no hardship. He's manipulating his fan base to start them up again. And that's all that he's doing. And as soon as the news dropped that Twilight of the Gods had been cancelled this week, I went, and that's exactly why. Because now he's got the Twilight of the Gods, which was intended to be a franchise, cancelled. Remember when he did Guardians of Ga'Hoole, the Owls film? And that was supposed to be like 5 films? Cancelled. Rebel Moon, we're never seeing that again.
That's not going to go
Army
anywhere,
of the Dead,
is it?
that's gone nowhere. So basically, the only thing that he can fall back on that people go, let's have more of, is his Snyderverse DC. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I've said that by all means, let him do an animated finale for his Snyderverse. Let them tie up that story. I don't begrudge them having the second part of that Justice League done in one format. Not live action, but animated format.
And sticking with TV, Jon Favreau, who's now become one of the squires of the Lucasfilm empire, has said that a Mandalorian season 4 could possibly happen. As he says, there are scripts sitting on his desk, but of course, before that, we get the Mandalorian and Grogu, and if that's a success, will that mean that there's going to be another Mandalorian series? Well, we'll wait and see.
At the same time, it's more or less confirmed now that Rian Johnson's proposed new Star Wars trilogy is now dead in the water.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed because I will watch anything by Rian Johnson, but I'm also not surprised.
Netflix has handed out a green light for a new TV series adaptation of the famous novel The Boys from Brazil.
I read that years and years and years ago, and I think I've seen the film. I was doing a list the other day because I was driving a long way and I was bored of films that I think I've seen, but have I? And I'm not sure whether I've seen Boys from Brazil. I think I have. And I watched Raging Bull again this week, and I realised I'd seen it so many times.
Boys from Brazil has been on our deep dive list for some time because it's a film that I've never got round to seeing, and it was 5-time Oscar nominated. So I think sometime next year we'll bring that into the mix. This new series from Netflix, confirmed to be starring in it, is Jeremy Strong, who will be playing Yakov Lieberman, the famed Nazi hunter who's drawn to investigate a conspiracy suggesting the notorious Dr. Joseph Mengele is in South America working on a diabolical and ambitious plan to re-establish the Third Reich. Gillian Anderson, August Deal, Daniel Bruhl. Oh, Daniel Bruhl's so good.
Yeah,
Shira Haas, Lizzie Kaplan will also star in the series, which is being penned by Peter Morgan, who penned The Crown and Frost Nixon. Great writing credentials there. And will be executive produced alongside Suzanne Mackey, who executive produced Misbehavior, Simon Heath, Una Robin, and Andy Stebbing.
I've not heard anything about this, but colour me excited. There have been some new set photos that have landed from Nosferatu, the Lighthouse director, Robert Eggers. His newest film, Werewolf, and you're supposed to say...
Werewolf?
Perfect. It's currently shooting in the UK, and the photos show Aaron Taylor-Johnson in period horror drama, his character with long hair and messy beard, shirtless and covered in blood. I don't know if this was the behind-the-scenes party or it's a shot from the film, but we do know the story takes place in 13th century England. Did you see the trailer for Return to Silent Hill?
I did indeed. I mean, I caught a few trailers this week, but the Return to Silent Hill, oh, chef's kiss. It's Silent Hill 2 done as a film, and it looks so sumptuous, like that first Silent Hill film did. And it's got the music by the original composer from the games.
Yes, which they make a big deal of in the trailer.
This is creepy. Pyramid Head looks magnificently disturbing. Yeah, Silent Hill, I mean, it's getting released in January, which I think is a dump month, sadly, for a horror film. They've not got a lot of confidence in it. The Silent Hill films haven't really hit until they've come onto home release. So I imagine that they've already got a good streaming deal planned for this. But I'm there day one at the cinema watching it. There was also trailers over the past week for the Moana live action, which you can do a side-by-side comparison to the original Moana animated, and it's the same film.
Okay.
Project Hail Mary, which that's high on my list this coming year. And this was one that I asked Emily at work whether she'd seen it, and she didn't even realise it had come out, and I got very excited, watched it, and she was giggling and enthusiastic for the rest of the shift. Sunrise on the Reaping, the Hunger Games prequel.
Yeah, I noticed it. I've not much interest in the Hunger Games. I tell you what trailer I have enjoyed recently, much more so than it ought to be, and that's the Anaconda one. It made me giggle.
Anaconda, I'm looking forward to. You know, I'm a fan of trashy B-movie
Yes.
schlock. And Anaconda is taking the smart approach of having two fans of trashy B-movie schlock, particularly the original Anaconda film, wanting to make their own sequel to that film and things going terribly wrong. So it's the meta approach. It is basically if I wanted to make an Anaconda film, but about my love for Anaconda. Jack Black, when he goes to Jack Black, can be annoying, but he looks the right level of Jack Black in this, especially up against Paul Rudd, who is always great when he works with like other comedians. He knows how to bounce off them. He knows how to play things. I'm there for it. I'm there for big screen blockbuster B movie. It reminds me of things like Arachnophobia and Eight-Legged Freaks.
I'd love to see Arachnophobia again. I've been trying to hunt it down to Joe the Kiddo. I might have to try and pick a copy up, but then again, I've not seen a good Blu-ray version.
Brief sequel updates, tying into our question of the week, as usual.
Yeah.
So we already mentioned during the question of the week, the Alita Battle Angel 2 has been rumoured and hinted this week, with the actual quote from James Cameron was, "I appreciate the loyalty of the Alita fans. Robert Rodriguez and I have sworn a blood oath to do at least one more Alita movie. In fact, we're thinking of an architecture that bridges into a third film, but we'll be satisfied if we can make one more." Joseph Kosinski has given an update this week as well about a potential Formula One sequel.
Okay.
That film was a huge success. In his words, "We're dreaming up what the next chapter for Sonny Hayes would be, and for APXGP. But based on the reactions from around the world to this movie, it's something that people want to see. I'll be happy to go back and do it because we had so much fun making this one."
And so much money.
And lastly this week, John Boyega was asked at Liverpool Comic Con about a potential return to the role of Finn alongside Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. We know that Oscar Isaac in recent weeks has said he hates Disney for what they've done politically, so he won't be returning. Boyega says that he's open to return to the role, but only on film. He doesn't want it on a CV series. Me and Oscar are very stubborn, and we believe the bromance should only be on the big screen. It has to be a movie and obviously a great script. So if I get those combinations, who knows? Did you see this piece this week about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey and how they're going to avoid the sound complaints?
Okay. No, I've not. I did see that he turned down Troy years back, the Brad Pitt star.
Well, we know that every time that there's a Nolan film, and anyone who works in cinemas gets ready for the complaints that we can't do a thing of because that's how the sound mix is and how Nolan wants it. But there's always been a problem with overblown music or sound effects drowning out dialogue, and people think that we've messed up as a cinema. Well, it's not been that. It's been the fact that he likes to shoot with IMAX cameras, and IMAX cameras are very noisy. And Nolan, being Nolan, doesn't like to do ADR either. So he likes to capture the dialogue on set. So he's always said that he needs to be able to tell us a film that the dialogue's not important. So if he has to drown it out with a score by Zimmer, which is generally the case, then dialogue doesn't necessarily impact on things. Well, they've got whole new IMAX shooting rigs now. Now he's filming the Odyssey completely in IMAX. All of his other films have been bit by bit. He's gone from like 15% IMAX, 30%, 50%, 80%. This is the first full IMAX. The new rigs have sound dampening units that they're encased in. And as Nolan explains, you can now be shooting a foot from an actor's face while they're whispering and get usable sound. What that opens up are intimate moments of performance on the world's most beautiful format. So we should hopefully be able to hear what people are saying this time in one of his films.
Lastly from me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was going to come back as an animated series. Then they were talking about doing the Last Ronin story. It's now been decided it's going to come back as a new live action reboot.
Yeah, disappointed the ones that are being cancelled along the route, but it's kind of understandable in this environment that we're in at the moment that they're just throwing a lot of project ideas out there and they need to find the one that is going to be a success. Last Ronin would be a great adaptation, but I think it'd be a very niche adaptation at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what they've got to try to avoid. Yes. That's something that if a reboot of Turtles works on the big screen, then you can throw in the niche ones as little side projects.
Yeah.
A couple of bits of quick news. So Michael Mann is going to reteam with his Public Enemy star Christian Bale for Heat 2. Bale is circling a major role alongside Leonardo DiCaprio for that film, which starts shooting next year. We still don't know what roles each of them will be signed up for. Rian Johnson has suggested that this third Knives Out film that is only a few days away from us might not be the last one. In his words, creatively, I feel energized after making this third one. Daniel and I are already starting to formulate what could be the next one if we do another one. I don't know why I would stop doing it if we could keep making them. Whether this would be with Netflix is up for debate because he's not been happy with how they've handled the distribution, particularly reducing the cinema experience down to just 1 week of exclusive previews. But I imagine if Netflix want to keep him around, all they'd have to do is say, you know, that Poker Face that got cancelled, we'll take it.
Yeah.
So we might get some good news on that front. Twisted Metal, the Peacock series that I've got a lot of love for and brought to the Neat Things twice, has been officially renewed for a third season. So that's got me very giddy with excitement. And Alejandro G. Inarritu has a new project, and Tom Cruise has posted a photo from the set of that project. It's untitled. It's a black comedy movie, and the photo was taken during the rehearsal for the film, and the film itself arrives next year. All that we know about it, the story follows the most powerful man in the world who tries to prove he's humanity's savior before the disaster he's unleashed destroys everything. And the cast lineup, as you'd expect from an Inarritu film, is fantastic. Jesse Plemons, Sandra Hüller, Riz Ahmed, Sophie Wilde, Emma Darcy, Robert John Burke, Bern Gorman, Michael Stuhlbarg, and John Goodman. We don't know much more about it, but I am there for that film.
And that, folks, that's the news.
You're listening to No Barriers Radio, and you're listening to The Film File, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. And if you're enjoying the show, then check out the Film File podcast, which you can find quite easily by heading over to your favorite podcast platform, searching for The Film File, hitting that subscription button, and leaving a like. More to come on No Barriers Radio, and more to come on The Film File. And you can get in touch with us right here at Film File HQ by simply
heading over to social media platforms, search for Film File UK. You can get in touch with us through there. You can email us, podcast@filmfile.uk. Get in touch with us with any thoughts on films, any films that you want us to deep dive at some point, any films that you disagree with our opinions on. Feel free. We're always open to listen to other sides of the story.
And now it's time for this week's Deep Dive.
Dive.
There's a theme this week. We're going back to the future, to the distant year of 2006. Yes, we are. We're going to talk about a totalitarian Britain, freedom fighters, guys running around in Guy Fawkes masks. Is it now or is it V for Vendetta?
What we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country. This message must be read in every newspaper, seen on every television. I want everyone to remember why they need us.
People should not be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of their people.
I'm ready.
From the creators of the Matrix trilogy comes an uncompromising vision of the future. V for Vendetta.
Based on the comic by Alan Moore and David Lloyd, which originally came out in a British anthology comic called Warrior, which was great, had Marvel Man in it as well, and Press Button was in it, Axel Press Button, if I remember correctly. Oh, it was good. I loved Warrior.
Comics such as Warrior, that early 80s of British comic books, was so creator-owned and inventive. Whilst in America, it was all superheroes, costumes and capes, and crossover big world-shattering events. In the UK, it was all politically charged satires and analyses of like the environment around us taken to the extreme. It was a dark future. British comic writership of the 80s is my favourite period of comic books. 2000 AD cultivated that kind of era, and Warrior just grew it for its whole 26 issues.
It led to the success of one Alan Moore in particular, who went on to work for DC Comics, made a huge hit with Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And DC was so keen to keep the Alan Moore industry alive. He went on, of course, to do Watchmen, but re-released V for Vendetta as a Vertigo Comics limited series graphic novel around the same time, and was a big success as Alan Moore was riding a wave at that particular time. And if so, of course, with that much interest, there had to be a film. Directed by James McTeague, which was his directorial debut, from a screenplay by the Wachowskis, who had just done incredibly well with The Matrix. It sets the story in an England where a fascist totalitarian regime has subjugated the UK. And it centers on V, portrayed by Hugo Weaving, an anarchist, a masked freedom fighter who attempts to ignite a revolution through elaborate terrorist acts. Getting caught up in this is Natalie Portman as Evie Hammond, a young woman who has her own secrets and becomes part of V's mission. Because Alan Moore had had a very poor handling of his work by other films, From Hell in particular, and even worse, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I quite enjoyed From Hell. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen I've only ever seen once. I don't know if I'll ever go back and watch again. He was incredibly dissatisfied, so much so that he declined to watch the film and asked not to be credited or paid any royalties. And that has happened since on any adaptation of any Alan Moore work. So if you go back and see Watchmen, for instance, it isn't credited to Alan Moore, only Dave Gibbons.
Yeah, Moore distanced himself greatly from it. He commented in an interview that the screenplay was one of the worst things that he'd read, and he was hugely critical of it. David Lloyd, however, was a lot more praising of the film. He said that he understood how some might find the changes made to the story damaging the material. But if you're willing to accept that an adaptation has to change things for the different medium, it retains the essence and spirit of the original work. And I couldn't agree more. I remember when this came out, and I loved it when it came out because I'd read the graphic novel multiple times. I've not gone back to this film in recent years until this past week, and it's worrying how relevant it still is to the society we are in today. Because bear in mind that the Alan Moore story that he created was drawing on Thatcherite politics, and it was taking them to the extreme. It was like 1984, but with a more grounded, this is the world around us if we're not careful. Yeah. And we're still at that stage decades later that this film stays relevant and the graphic novel stays relevant. You do see people saying like, well, we're not really living in a fascist state. It's like, no, but we are so close to it. And so many aspects within this that leads to this fascist regime within the world of V are happening around us at the moment. This is a warning sign. And I think that makes this film even more important now, that people need to explore it. People need to explore this story because it's a warning of where we are potentially heading if we don't stop what's happening.
I totally agree. McTiernan said at the time we felt that the graphic novel was very prescient to how the political climate is at the moment. That was back in 2006. And what happens when society is ruled by a government rather than by a government being run as a voice of the people. And I think all you have to do is to look stateside right now and the threat of what could happen if a fascist government was to take over in the UK. And it's all there. The only thing we haven't got is we haven't got a V this time. And of course, the mask went on to become, well, quite iconic.
A symbol of revolution.
Yeah, which of course is based on Guy Fawkes, for those listening abroad. Guy Fawkes was involved in the Gunpowder Plot, a historical piece of history where the Houses of Parliament were nearly brought down. And in this country has had a lot of relevance for a long time, even though I think now people have started to maybe lose that connection as to why we have fireworks on the 5th of November. But there are parallels with this to the Count of Monte Cristo, comparisons between V and Edmond Dante. There's symbolism like the Phantom of the Opera. And of course, there's George Orwell's 1984, all brought together in this. And I have to agree, rather good adaptation of Alan Moore's work. And I think, in all honesty, this is the closest we've had.
Final act, it goes off in a different direction to what the graphic novel does. But for the right reasons.
It's a movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the changes are done for that transference over to big screen.
Yeah.
What definitely helps this is the casting throughout. I mean, Natalie Portman threw herself into this role to such a degree that the scene where she gets her hair shaved off was only shot once because she said, I'll do it, take all my hair off for the role. And they captured it on film. Her distress seemed quite evident at the same time.
Yeah.
V, underneath that mask, now in the comics, the artwork by David Lloyd made subtle changes to the mask to convey expression and emotion. They hummed and hawed about this on set as to whether to have different masks for different moods, but decided no, just keep the one mask. We want it to be believable and real. And so it all has to be in the performance. And the performance, James Purefoy is still in a few of those scenes,
Yes.
but the voice is Hugo Weaving, who stepped in after 6 weeks because Purefoy wasn't quite working.
Yeah.
He remains uncredited. Weaving replaced him, redubbed Purefoy's scenes, and then filmed his own scenes. And Weaving's got one of those voices that he can put emphasis on whatever he thinks needs the emphasis. And so every aspect of that character is conveyed through the voice. Even as he stood stoically just talking, you never feel that the voice is just coming from nowhere. You feel it's all coming from within that character.
Portman has said that her relationship with Hugo Weaving, who they'd met in Australia, I believe, she said the
Yes.
relationship between V and Evie has a complication like the relationship in the film. There's moments when it's a father-daughter. There's moments when it's like lovers. It has to be moments when it's a mentor and a student. And how many of those are all at once? She's fantastic in this. She's the heart of this film. And it was a major transition from her work that she was doing with Star Wars as a quite a relatively still young actress into much more complicated work. And that shines through.
Stephen Rea playing the inspector from Scotland Yard.
The nose.
He always delivered a great performance. And yeah, he was really like one of those prominent people as support roles at this point in his life. Stephen Fry cropping up as the closeted gay talk show host, because this is an environment in this fascist society where homosexuality is outlawed. There's on the surface is stunt casting, but works so well. John Hurt as the former Conservative Member of Parliament, Adam Sutler. Stunt casting because, come on, the parallels with 1984 within this are so obvious. But John Hurt always delivered. And it kind of works to have someone who we knew as being the underdog who was fighting against this kind of repressive society previously is now representing the very face of that society. Everyone across the board, all taking the subject matter as seriously as it deserves to be. Because this is a time when comic book movies weren't serious. This is a time when people thought that comic books was just costumes and capes. And yes, V is a costume and cape, but it's not to be taken at that value.
It got a mixed critical review. Jonathan Ross hated it. I remember watching him, and he absolutely blasted the film, calling it woeful and depressing failure. I don't agree.
No.
I think there's an awful lot going from it. Others, like Ebert and Roper, gave it a 2 thumbs up rating, stating that V for Vendetta almost always has something going from it that's actually interesting us and inviting us to decode the characters and the plot. I like this film an awful lot, and revisiting it recently, I do think it's a masterful adaptation, which does what a good adaptation does. Doesn't stay slavish to the book, but interprets the book in a very visual way. I do think McTiernan isn't a great director, but does deliver a nice sort of retro future look to it. But I think it captures the essence of what the book is about. More stated that it doesn't deal with fascism in the way that he wanted it to. But I have to disagree, because what I think it does is it becomes more relevant to the world around us today, in which fascism is hidden by the media, and we are sold it very, very quietly.
There's a reason why the comic and graphic novel are considered one of the most important tales of our times, and will always, sadly, be relevant. The alterations of the tale keep the core essence, change it, but there are some great parallel shots, even the opening section where she's getting ready to go out to an event and he's costuming up for his own event. And that's straight from the graphic novel. That's straight from the first issue. If you've never seen V for Vendetta, it's one that I urge people to watch for the importance, for the performances, for the look, for the design. It's just a great example of how comic books can tell something a bit meaty and a bit serious And it's not all about spandex and flying around.
While there was never a sequel, there is a TV adaptation in the works for HBO, and we'll just have to see whether they capture the original comic and graphic novel series and follow a much more closer story to what Alan Moore and David Lloyd originally intended, because they're going to have to do something different with it rather than just keep what is a solid comic book movie.
A couple of little mini bits of trivia. Everyone's favourite action director at the moment, who was also a stuntman, Chad Stahelski, was one of the main stunt performers on this. And the iconic scene where he emerges from Larkhill walking through the fire, that was Chad Stahelski with fire-resistant gel and a G-string.
I wasn't aware of that.
And there's a fair few shots that you might think that they made on a studio and used model shots, but no, the cast and crew were actually allowed to shoot near the British Parliament and Elizabeth Tower, aka Big Ben, to everyone who doesn't know. But they could only shoot between midnight and 4:30 a.m. every night, so could only stop traffic for 4 minutes at a time.
If you want to watch it, Andy, where can you find it?
If you head over to Amazon Prime, do a search, it's through there, or go out and purchase it. Worth picking up, because this is a film that every 10 years we can go back to and hope that society has moved on, and find out that sadly it hasn't, and we've still not learned the lessons.
We're just getting closer.
Yes.
And on that note, we'll be back next week with another deep dive. And now it's time for this week's, well, it's just one review, really. It doesn't matter what else Andy's going to talk about. He's going to talk about Wicked for Good.
Bring me Elizabeth's room. So I have proof that she's dead.
Perhaps a change in the weather.
It's gone too far.
Haven't you heard? I'm the Wicked Witch of the West.
So come on, Andy. You've been looking forward to this for a year. It's been high on your anticipation list. You are a massive fan. As I said, I admired it rather than liked it. I think it's incredibly well done. I think performances are fantastic. It just isn't me. That's not to take anything away from it. It's just not me. But I know you love the first one so much. So the question is, have you walked out of Wicked for Good expecting that film? And is it the film you want it to be? And do you love it as much?
So, after the longest intermission I've waited through for Wicked, the second act kicks in to complete the tale of Elphaba and Glinda, and the corruption and misinformation spun by the wizard and Madame Morrible. I've mentioned before on the show how much of a fan of the stage musical I am, and the novel that proceeded from Gregory Maguire. And when I reviewed the first part of this film adaptation last year, I was absolutely delighted with how it had been handled. Multiple rewatches of that first part over the last year have served to reinforce that opinion. I adore this film and have reduced me to tears at all the right moments of emotion every single time I watch it. My hopes for this second half were built up, but it is worth noting that even as much as I love the stage version, it isn't unfair to say that the second act always feels a little weaker than the first act. After all, and pretty much all the Wicked fandom out there will agree with me on this, that first act has the growing friendship, it has the rivalry, it has the introduction of the corruption going on in Oz, it has the peril, it has the thrill, and it culminates before the interval with Defying Gravity, which is a huge swell of emotional resonance of a song. The second act never stands up to that swell. It's always been the Shiz University set first half that people love so much. With the second half, as it starts to step into the toes of the Wizard of Oz, it never seems to completely come together. Still great, don't get me wrong, I still love it, the second half, but it never felt that it lived up to the first half. After hearing that this film adaptation would not only expand out the second half a little, much how the first film did last year, but would also add in a couple of new songs into the mix to enhance the emotional swell as the tale crosses paths with the events of Wizard of Oz. Suffice to say, this second film actually does seem to have managed to improve on the stage version as a result, even if it does still pale in comparison to the first film. but only just. Picking up the tale, a few years after the ending of Wicked, Elphaba is continuing her fight for the rights of the animals of Oz, whilst trying to expose the wizard's lies to the citizens. Glinda is now a pawn of Morrible and the wizard, her lack of magical abilities being hidden behind mechanical trickery for the manipulation of the masses. The propaganda machine of Emerald City spins the idea that Elphaba is a wicked witch and she wants to destroy Oz, and only the wizard and Glinda can prevent this from happening. Meanwhile, in Munchkinland, Nessa Rose now holds governorship and is being swayed by the wizard's lies, turning against everything her sister wishes. When the idea is spun to draw out Elphaba by way of a peril affecting her sister, that is where the familiar tale of Dorothy comes into play, only this time from a whole new viewpoint. There's not really much to add to a review of this film that wasn't covered for the first part. The production values are just as gloriously presented. The cast are once again perfectly placed. Erivo and Grande are as majestic on screen as previously, and the tale flows at a perfect pace to not feel at all rushed, but it never feels bogged down in any way. There's peril, there's joy, there's romance, there's betrayal, and everyone delivers every aspect splendidly. This is, in essence, more of the same. And if you were won over by the first part, it's safe to say that you'll be enraptured by this second part. The new songs and the scene extensions fit well and lend well to the storytelling on offer. No Place Like Home in particular offers a moment of reflection and poignancy for Elphaba that was missing from the stage show, whilst the plight of the animals is given some expanded relevancy here and isn't abandoned as it always felt on the stage version. All in all, Wicked for Good is a solid second half of the tale, and it delivers exactly what I wanted it to deliver. I look forward to revisiting this magic for years to come on home release.
I'm really happy for you, Andy, because I know how much you were looking forward to it, and I'm glad it's paid off. That ultimately there's that anticipation of going in to see a sequel to something that you've loved and it not quite working, which is probably what I expect you to say about Family Plan 2.
Merry Christmas, Beans!
You're early. Oh. No. Mom, Dad, Omar the Morgans.
He is your boyfriend? This guy is ripped.
Can he put some clothes on?
Yes, Daddy. He just called me Daddy?
Ready for your meeting?
One quick job and the whole trip pays for itself. Then Morgan family Christmas.
Does it go?
Hello, Sean. Are you enjoying your family vacation?
What's happening here?
You don't recognize me. Maybe this'll help. I'm here to take over your father's business.
Well, who the hell is he?
He's a ghost from my past.
More secrets, Stan?
You're unbelievable.
He's gonna have control of my dad's network. That means all of his money, all of his assets. If there's nowhere to hide, he's gonna find us.
So what's the plan?
To take down the family, we have to get into the house where I grew up. You wanna go for a climb with me?
It would be an honor, Daddy. Dan.
You came to try to stop me.
Little prince! This is my house.
It's true you're selling used cars.
Certified pre-owned.
You're unbelievable.
The first Family Plan movie was as generic an action film as you could get, using the trope of retired assassin finds his past catches up with him, putting his family at risk, as the jump off for Mark Wahlberg to have fun with cliche after cliche in a generally entertaining way. It was a lot better than it deserved to be, even if it was immediately forgettable as the credits rolled. Now, with a sequel that sees the family thrown into danger once again as a long-lost half-brother enters the mix, with plans to get revenge on Wahlberg's character, all whilst the family try to celebrate a holiday in Europe, we get pretty much more of the same, but for much less impact. Kit Harington jumps on board for this sequel, playing the long-lost brother Aidan, who feels resentment at the fact that his father favoured the son who stepped away from the family business, and so he implements a plan to frame Wahlberg's Dan as a criminal, putting him and his family in danger, whilst Aidan takes over their father's criminal empire. Sadly, all the charm and fun that helped make the rather generic first film passable appears to be lost here. The family dynamic that held the first film together feels off somehow, and in the end, this all feels a little repetitious. I did realise before watching this that I actually had no memory of the first film, and I had to check my notes from when I watched that to make sure that I had actually seen it before I started to recall anything specific. With this second film, even as I was watching it, I was already scrubbing any residual memory of this film as it happened. Family Plan 2 is an example of how sometimes you should just settle for the success of a one-off film and not try to make a franchise or sequelize it. One trope too many, even having the same cast and crew haven't helped this floundering mess out one bit.
I'll never go back to Family Plan 1. So it's just, the sequel is just redundant for me.
I just want to do a quick mention as well to a film that landed on Netflix, animated movie, about 2 weeks ago that I caught up with this week, and that's In Your Dreams. If you've got young kids out there, this is a great animated adventure which young and old can all appreciate, which sees a brother and sister discover that they can manipulate and confront things in their dreams, and they seek out the Sandman because their parents look like they're going to divorce, and they want the Sandman to keep their family together. It's a charming, beautiful tale. It's like that. What was that? Was it Over the Moon or something that Netflix did a few years ago that had just such beautiful charm? It's that kind of charm. It's well worth checking out, but it's just dumped unceremoniously on Netflix. So I'm just bringing it to people's attention out there. Get it checked out.
Okay, that's what's out this week. What we got coming up over the next week, which I'm assuming no studio is going to run up against Wicked.
Well, you'd think, however, Zootropolis 2, or if you're in other parts of the world, Zootopia 2, lands at cinemas this coming week. And that's going to take a huge chunk of the family market. As we mentioned last week, Knives Out is on its limited release for a full week at cinemas. Get it checked out at the cinemas before it comes to Netflix in a few more weeks. Christie gets its UK release this week, stripped back from the wide release that it was. It has still got a limited distribution. And one that's on my radar that I'm looking forward to, which probably won't do much, but Pillion with Alexander
I've seen
Skarsgård.
that. I'm intrigued by that.
It looks like a nice romantic comedy. I love the idea of it. The trailer made me chuckle. Pillion is on my list to catch. Now TV and Sky, the film was all right. The game's better. Until Dawn lands on there this week.
Yeah.
It was all right,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
We weren't disappointed. It was
all right. The best Christmas pageant ever is the latest Christmas festive nonsense that is landing on Sky. And The Friend lands on Sky this week. On Netflix, Jingle Bell Heist is their latest Christmas festive nonsense.
Okay.
But Stranger Things Season 5 Part 1 lands this week. And I think that's going to take up some time.
I think so.
Over on Disney Plus, well, I know you've been waiting for this. Beatles Anthology lands this coming week.
Can't wait. That's my Christmas present right there. Okay, that's us done for this week. But before we go, let's talk about our neat things. Andy, go for it.
So you can't have missed the discussion about this online. It's 4 episodes in, Pluribus, the latest show from Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan. Now, if you have seen the debate online, you'll have seen people saying that it's boring, nothing happens, and Ray Seahorn in the lead is the most miserable character ever, and there's nothing to like about her, and they hate it. They don't understand why there's so much fuss. Or you've seen the other side of the fence, which is where I'm firmly sat, which is saying this is one of the best sci-fi concepts that I have watched in years. It's a very simple concept. It's very Twilight Zone. A transmission from a distant part of the universe is intercepted and analysed and experimented on. And all of a sudden, humanity has a hive mind, and all are one, except for about 12 people worldwide, of which Rhys Seehorn is one of them. And yes, she's not a likeable character, because your protagonist doesn't have to be a likeable character.
Right.
They have to be
remember the 70s?
real. Yeah, they have to be a real and believable character. She's very grumpy. She's bucking against this new world around her, even though all the hive mind want to do anything that they can for her. They will fulfill any of her wishes whilst they try to work out how they can bring her into the fold and bring her into the hive mind. Humanity, to all intents and purposes, is in a much better place. There's no wars anymore. There's no crime. There's no reason for people to argue or complain because everyone is one mind. Sounds like ideal, except Rhys Seehorn's character is a writer, and so she's an artist. And so she's realising that there's no creativity, there's no individualism. And she's also never really been a people person. Everyone is moaning that her character is too grumpy and she needs to cheer up and start being a bit more pleasant. He's missing the fact that a countdown clock in the first episode and then a continuously moving forward clock that pops up every episode shows that 4 episodes in, we're only a week into her story, and she lost the love of her life at the start of it. How quick do you get over losing the love of your life, people? she's supposed to be unlikable, but she's also one of those people who thinks that she can be independent, but is starting to realize that she does need the society around her, even if it's not the society that she wants. This is great writing. There's episodes, out of the 4 episodes, there's not a lot of action, but it's dialogue intense. It's darkly funny at times. It's poignantly harrowing at other times. I'm caught up in it. I am absolutely caught up in it. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to get resolved. I don't know what to expect going forwards. And this is what I love. It doesn't seem as predictable as that core concept suggests. Pluribus is another reason that we always tell people to subscribe to Apple TV Plus, because boy, if they keep delivering shows like this, the year subscription is worth it for this show alone.
I can't wait. It's high on the list. I'm trying to get through a few things. As you know, I'm kind of weird about how many shows I've got on the go, and I've just started on Welcome to Derry. So I'm waiting to build it up and try and not blitz it, because I don't think it's a show that needs blitzing. But I want to watch it when I can get 2 or 3 under my belt. But it's high, very high on the list. I'm taking a leaf out of your book this week for a neat thing, and that's a game. Now, there's a reason that I don't play a lot of games. It's called addiction sometimes, because sometimes you can play a game and you can't put it down. And a bit like you, I've had a very, very stressful couple of weeks for many, many reasons. Real kind of like, got to get through this type thing. So I downloaded a game from Apple Games onto my. I've got a new phone, so I thought I've got a lot of memory on it. I'll download a game. So it's a classic. It hasn't reinvented the wheel in any way, but I am hooked to the point of I'm going to have to pack it in because I'm absolutely hooked. And it's a simple game. You will have probably played it, and it's Bubble Shooter.
Yes.
So simply, all you have to do is you get a coloured ball, and you get a row of different coloured spheres, and you have to shoot. And the plan is, if you can get 3, then you burst the bubbles. And but the skill is that you've got to do it very quickly as the bubbles descend in a very kind of Space Invaders sort of way. It's simplicity at its best, but boy, have I become hooked over the last couple of weeks. I must have played this years ago because it was still in my apps, and I can't put it down. And I can't get past level 23 for some reason. I think there's a TV series to be made about it. But it has been a bit of an interesting distraction, really, from stuff that's going on that is a little bit encompassing. So, as I say, I kind of took the page out of your book, Andy, and turned to a game to try and just keep me distracted. And it seems to have worked. But I'm going to have to pack it at some point. I'm going to have to go cold turkey with it, because it is just becoming a little bit more than just the odd distraction. But I am having fun with it for now.
I can understand that, because the game that is a clone of Puzzle Bobble, or Bust a Move as it was known in the UK.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I lost months to that game when it came out, putting money into the arcade and playing that game. And then when it came out on the PlayStation 1 as Bust a Move, lost my life into that game. It's simple gameplay, but there's strategy to it as well. Sometimes you don't want to link it up. You're setting up for a larger streak. Yeah. I've managed to break my addiction to that game, so I'm not going to get drawn back in, because it did destroy me.
Anyway, if you do want it, it's free on Apple Games, or it's probably variations
the Android store as well.
Game. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's very simple to pick up. Anyway, that's us done. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please do. Please leave a review. Tell all your friends. Tell the people on buses that you may not have met before. If they look a little bit geeky, let them know that there's a podcast just for them. We'll be back again, unless we're invaded by Hive Mind next week. And if we are invaded by Hive Mind,
you'll already have the show in your head. We won't have to record it, because you'll all know what we're talking about anyway.
Anyway, take care, my friend. I shall speak to you very soon, and hopefully catch up with you in the flesh very soon. And to you good people out there, have a great week. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.